So it looks like Bernie Sanders went on the Today Show for an interview, and it seems to be the case that the interviewer was giving some questions that suspiciously seem to be carrying water for the wealthy and the powerful. Seem to be pretty bad talking points to start out these questions. And let's just hear this out.
Let's talk about you in general. Since we last saw each other, I believe you've had a heart attack. You've kept up a very vigorous campaign schedule. After that, since October, you've released 3 letters from your medical doctors talking about your medical condition. But for Democrats who are looking at this race and sizing it up, what do you say to those who feel like it's a little risky to nominate a 78-year-old man who had a heart attack a few months ago?
Well, look, you can do the converse of that and say, you know what, being 78 and having a 30-year career in the Congress, mayor of the city of Burlington, Vermont, I have a record. And if you go back to my record over decades, you know what, it's a pretty consistent record. It stands up for working class of this country. It takes on the corporate greed that exists today, whether it's Wall Street or the outrageous things that the drug companies are doing. So if people want somebody who's consistent, who stands for working people, who've taken on all of the special interests, I think I'm that guy.
And that speaks to your experience, and there can be a debate about that, but the question was about your health. What about if somebody's worried about someone of your age, forgive me, who just had a heart attack?
Yeah, well, look, I think you look at the totality of a candidate. Every candidate has strengths and weaknesses and so forth and so on. I would not be running. I would not be here today if I were not healthy. As you know, I'm running a very vigorous campaign. No one out there is working harder than me. We feel great. If we win this thing, we're going to have a very vigorous administration.
Democrats, above all things, if you talk to them, if you look at polls, they put electability at the top of the list.
Yep.
They want to win. They want to beat Trump.
Yes.
What do you say to those who are worried that your message is too progressive, too far left to win a general election?
No. The way you beat Trump, and I believe this very strongly, is you're going to need a huge voter turnout. And that means you need a campaign of energy and excitement, which speaks to the working class of this country, which speaks to young people, which brings people into the political process who have never been in that process before. That is what our campaign is about.
Can I just ask you, if you look at 2018, our most recent national elections and midterms, the candidates you endorsed, I believe of all the competitive districts that could have gone red to blue, only one of them flipped. The Democrats got the House back, but they did it by running more centrist campaigns. And they flipped districts. I mean, so a lot of Democrats are saying
Savannah, it's more complicated than that.
Okay.
One of the things that we managed to do in 2016 is energize a lot of young people and working people who previously had not voted. And that 2018 election, we saw a huge increase in the number of young people who are participating, which is exactly what we have to do. Look, what the American people understand is that the middle class is stagnant right now. People are working longer hours for low wages. They can't afford prescription drugs. They can't afford to send their kids to college. Meanwhile, the people on top are doing phenomenally well. The American people, in my view, want a government and an economy that represents all of us, not just wealthy campaign contributors. That's why I believe we're going to win.
Senator.
So, I mean, there's just so many things to say about this whole thing. And again, obviously, this is an interview that clearly is. She's one of those people who works in the media who's obviously going to be, using the same talking points, the same questions, the same deceiving lies. Now, I wish Bernie had pushed back more on the health question. I really wish that he had done that, because he should have just been like, hey, I'm perfectly healthy for this. I'm totally able to do this. I'm fine. Because Bernie got, I believe those are his first stents that have been placed in, which is pretty insane. Most people get their stents in at like 50s or 60s. Some people even younger than that. So I think that's more of a testament as to how healthy he is than how, supposedly unhealthy he is. But I do like how he kind of flipped the 78-year-old thing, because he's like, well, hey, look, like I have this huge record, and that's because of my age right here. And I think he should just be like, hey, look at my campaigning, look at how rigorous, my campaigning schedule is, look at how much I campaign, how much I'm out there, how many different campaigns I'm doing in one day, all of the action that I'm doing. Just look at me, speaking mentally. And you just kind of examine him and just be like, oh, okay. And then obviously you read the 3 doctor's reports, which you're free to go do. I read them. It's just, letters breaking down his numbers and the medicines he's taking and all of this stuff. And the 3 different doctors saying that he's healthy, he's able to go. And So it's a ridiculous talking point. And Bernie Sanders has gone up since his heart attack, which is very good news. He's above 20 points in the RCP average right now, which is really cool. He went down to like 14 something when he had the heart attack. But it's a ridiculous talking point that's used against him, of course. I do like how he kind of combated it, but I do wish he'd be a bit more forceful on the heart attack thing. Just be like, hey, like the doctor said I'm perfectly healthy and I'm fine. And so I wish that, he had said that. So I'm not really sure what was going on with that. Now, I found the electability issue the most hilarious simply for the fact that when it comes to electability, Bernie Sanders, that's his strong suit. Now, I wish Bernie had responded by basically saying, asking her where it is that Hillary lost that made it the biggest. And, if she knew, she would say the Rust Belt. If not, Bernie would fill it in by saying the Rust Belt, that being Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. And he would explain how he would win over those Rust Belt voters because of his record on NAFTA and TPP, etc., etc. And then he could contrast himself to Joe Biden, and then he could be like, no, actually, not only is there not a worry for electability with me, if your main issue is electability, I'm your guy. That's the biggest thing, okay? That's what he should be doing. He should have flipped that around, but like, no. Not only is electability not an issue for me, it's a strength. And he needs to push that more. So in a scenario like that, Bernie's got to go hard and be like, no, what are you talking about? Electability is our strength. And he kind of goes into that a little bit, but he needs to be more specific about it. And he also needs to contrast himself to Joe Biden and explain how it's his strength and not Joe's. And that's what he needs to do. And so, again, a really insane one, especially, and I'm a bit disappointed that Bernie didn't go hard on that one because it was such a cakewalk right there. And then the House seat portion was pretty hilarious as well. But the House seats will start to garner more House seats as more races come on. So hopefully we'll have another wave of House seats won. Hopefully we'll have another wave of House seats won by Democrats. That would be good. But also, obviously the way that numbers come out from statewide elections in comparison to House districts are different as well. But this Today Show interview is clearly something that damn near looks like the bosses at Today Show basically fed her the questions. That's almost what it seems like. I don't really think that's what it was, but that's what it seems like. This is one of the worst interviews of Bernie Sanders I've seen.